KXJB, TV4. This is the 6 p.m. edition of KX4 News with Charlie Johnson, Teresa Joy, Steve Poitras, and Tom Coyne.
Good evening, everyone. Managers of the mothballed Walhalla ethanol plant have given up hope of refinancing the venture.
That's right. Now they're trying to lease the plant to someone else. Dawn Enterprises Management Committee member Herman Haugen says Dawn is negotiating with 2 companies to lease the plant, but he won't say who they are. Haugen says he's confident a lease will be worked out, possibly as early as next week. In the meantime, the federal bankruptcy court has given the State Public Service Commission permission to begin insolvency proceedings against Dawn Enterprises. PSC President Dale Sandstrom says the move will allow the commission to become trustee for some of Dawn's assets. Members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 310 today rejected a salary and benefits offer by federal beef processors, the new owners of Held Beef Industries in West Fargo. The union meatpackers were told they would be laid off September 19th to make the sale complete, and then they would be offered a new contract when the plant reopened. Union spokesman Clarence Byrne says the workers are disappointed with the new wage package offered. It includes a 5-year freeze on workers' pay. Federal spokesman Marshall Shernan says he's not received an official notice of the union's decision to reject his offer this afternoon. Shernan says he will look at the union response and probably begin working on a Plan B for the union's consideration. The federal beef processor plant employs about 140 full-time meat packers.
Prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Fargo say they have nothing to be ashamed of after an appeals court ordered retrials or acquittals in a murder case on the Devil's Lake Sioux Indian Reservation. Lynn Garcia reports.
Federal prosecutors say they plan to move as soon as possible in retrying 2 men on murder charges stemming from the 1983 death of former Devil's Lake police officer Jerome Eddie Peltier near Fort Totten. A federal appeals court yesterday ordered new trials for Richard LaFuente and John Perez. The government is also considering retrying on assault charges 8 other defendants whose second-degree murder convictions were overturned.
Do what the circuit has said. There was an assault. Even though you can't show the further step to murder, we would try them for the assault, which they were indicted for. Obviously, there are some legal problems that we have to answer before we get to that point. But if we are confident that we don't have a double jeopardy problem, that would be our intention to do.
Prosecutors say they are very upset with the decision by the appeals court. Dennis Fisher says it didn't exactly make our day.
To see the work of some very creative law enforcement officers, dedicated law enforcement officers, and all those witnesses and all those victims, not only the victim himself, the one that was killed, but the victims that were created by him, the wives of the people who are in prison, the children, all those people thrown into upheaval one more time. That's hard to contemplate.
One defense attorney thinks the government is making a mistake if it tries to retry the cases or to recharge any of the defendants.
The government had a very skinny case, and really I think it's important to recognize that this decision by the 8th Circuit was rendered while with the court accepting as a given every positive statement that every prosecution witness made in favor of the government during the trial.
Prosecutors hope to decide within a couple of weeks whether they'll press on with the assault charges. Several other retrials on perjury and witness tampering will follow the new murder trial, which may come toward the end of the year. Lynn Garcia, KX4 News, Fargo.
A Fargo man has been arrested in connection with 2 armed robberies at the Riverside Inn in Hawley, Minnesota. Authorities aren't identifying the suspect until he appears in county court tomorrow. Investigators say he'll face 2 counts of armed robbery for his role in holdups August 11th and 31st at the Riverside Inn. The robberies netted the Fargo man and 3 others a total of about $3,400 in cash. Authorities say warrants will be issued for the other suspects later.
Authorities have identified the Grand Forks man who died yesterday in a collision between his motorcycle and a pickup truck. 25-year-old Keith John Dwyer died when his cycle hit a truck driven by Michael Berger of Thompson. Dwyer was headed west on Highway 2. Berger reportedly turned left in front of him.
The Grand Forks County Commission will open wage negotiations with county employees on Thursday. The newly formed Grand Forks County Employees Association petitioned the board for collective bargaining 2 weeks ago. Commissioners Arvin Quasager and William Murphy will negotiate for the board. The employees negotiating team will seek better wages and benefits.
We're looking at a healthy wage increase and something that's fair to all employees and that's competitive to the local labor markets here in town.
Commissioners have approved the 1988 budget subject to good faith negotiations.
Governor George Sinner has appointed Grand Forks attorney Bruce Bowman as judge in the Northeast Central Judicial District. Bowman has practiced law for 18 years and is a former UND Law School faculty member. Sinner picked Bowman from a field of 5. The governor says it wasn't an easy choice. Bowman succeeds retiring district judge A.C. Bakken.
I really want to put my everything into it, and I hope that I can be a judge who decides cases quickly, but with sensitivity and with a great deal of study of the law.
Bowman's appointment is effective October 1st. He says he intends to run for the post in the 1988 general election.
Coming up after this break, Big Iron 7 is underway in West Fargo.
And the Vikings tune up for the... Ground was broken today for a $6 million aerospace training and research center at the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. Officials on hand praised the new addition, saying it'll help with pilot shortages projected for the future. Center will also train pilots in newer technologies, which will take planes higher and faster. The training facility is a combined effort of the FAA, the Training Division of Northwest Airlines, and UND.
Hundreds of farmers and ranchers from the 4-state region gathered for the opening day of the 7th annual Big Iron Agribusiness Exhibition. Steve Wimblum reports on one energy exhibitor whose product has survived the winds of change.
Despite the cloudy conditions this morning, the promise of sunny skies brought the curious out to open and close doors, scan the tractor controls, measure combine fronts, and ask a lot of questions. One of the exhibits that continued to turn people's heads displayed wind turbines, which are used to generate alternative electric power on farms and in homes.
And this allows the farmer and the consumer to have an option. Instead of being locked in at a rate that they have no control on, they can produce their own electricity by using the wind.
Harnessing the wind for electrical energy began in the mid-1970s when the oil crisis was at its worst. Today, with the specter of higher fuel prices not far off, government and public interest in wind harvesters has begun to grow again.
It's gone through a cyclic mode where during the tax credit period there was, of course, a lot of activity because of that, and it slowed down once that was gone. But it's picking back up again because of the volatile situations in the Persian Gulf, and people are realizing that energy is something that we have to get a handle on for the future.
With photographer Bill Petrosky, Steve Wimblum, KX4 News.
Another lovely day.
Yeah, a little fog this morning. It was heavy in some areas, but turned just fantastic. I don't know that it's maybe the summer's last stand, but
we hope not.
Most of the region got into the 80s today.
Okay.
It's going to be cooler tomorrow.
Oh.
But maybe not all that disagreeable. We are being spared the heavy rains that are going on down in much of the central and southern plains. Right now, the temperature is still at 81 in Fargo-Moorhead, and the sky still sunny. Humidity 38%, barometer 29.84, and steady. The wind light from the southeast at 7 miles an hour. Unofficially 82 the high today, low this morning of 53. And those marks are somewhat above the averages of 70 and 46. Records 91 in 1948 and 29 back in 1887, 100 years ago. Sunny skies over northern Minnesota and North Dakota, but it's cloudy across South Dakota and southern Minnesota, and rain in southeastern South Dakota, including around the Sioux Falls area, where they're reporting the coolest temperature in the tri-state region at 66, 73 over Rapid City. We've got mostly readings in the 80s, 87 at Jamestown, upper 70s at Detroit Lakes and Fergus Falls, but 80 at Bemidji, as well as at Thief River Falls and Alexandria, 82 up in Grand Forks, 84 at Devil's Lake, and look at this, 93 in Williston. That's a whole lot like summer. And in terms of the national picture, it was cool and cloudy with a little rain around Denver, 66 this afternoon, 55 up in Seattle. It was 93 in Phoenix, as well as in Williston, as well as down at Tampa, Florida. McAllen, Texas, was the nation's hot spot at 102, and it was 91 in Little Rock, 70s and 80s in the Northeast. Here's the satellite picture. Big curl of clouds around strong low pressure over the central plains, causing a lot of rain from South Dakota all the way down to Texas, with another front moving across Montana. So with this to the south of us and this moving towards us from the west, looks as though we'll have a chance of some precipitation starting tomorrow. But if with any luck, we won't get any of the heavy variety of activity that they've been getting down here in Nebraska and Kansas and points southward. They have some severe thunderstorm watches out in parts of Nebraska and Kansas, as well as down in Texas. A lot of rain in Missouri, Iowa, and Illinois. Some parts of Missouri have had as much as 7 inches of rain. Still clear, though, as you see, across much of North Dakota and the northern half of Minnesota. Here's the system to the south of us, pushing to the east-northeast. And those clouds have been spreading to the north a little bit. Then here's the cold front across Montana. Very warm ahead of it, somewhat cooler behind that front. And that will be moving our way, so we're going to be running into chances of precipitation. Lots of rain going on from parts of the Rockies out into South Dakota, throughout all the central and southern plains. A couple of severe thunderstorm watch boxes out here in Nebraska and Kansas, and down here in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Some rain up here in the upper Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania, New York, and in Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. As far as the temperatures tomorrow, we should still make the low 70s, but a band of 60s to the south of us because of the clouds and rain. 50s in parts of Montana, 60s elsewhere in the Big Sky State, 90s from the desert southwest across much of Texas and the southeastern states, generally pleasant in the east. On to the forecast for tonight, mostly clear with a very strong likelihood of fog developing later tonight as it did last night, and the temperatures will be dropping mostly into the lower 50s. And then for tomorrow, mostly cloudy and cooler with scattered showers, and the highs making it to around 70 or into the low 70s. Fargo-Moorhead will give us 72. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy with more scattered showers and even possibly some thunderstorms. Lows will be mild, though, mid-50s. On Thursday, mostly cloudy with a chance of showers, highs mid-60s to low 70s. Outlook Friday and Saturday includes a chance of showers on Friday, then warmer and drier Saturday, highs 65 to 72, lows 40 to 45. The winds light southeasterly tonight, tomorrow easterly 5 to 15 miles an hour. So it's beautiful yet this evening, but tomorrow things will start slipping a little bit.
Just a little, though. That's fine. A little is okay.
Maybe more than a little.
A symposium is underway this week on the campus of Concordia College in celebration of the bicentennial of the U.S. Constitution. Kathy Coyle is over there with a live report on today's speakers. Kathy?
Thank you, Charlie. Faith, Reason, and World Affairs is the name of that symposium. It began on Sunday. It will conclude tonight. The students and the public at large have been treated to a number of speakers on law, on religion, education, all on how the Constitution has made a difference. Earlier today, North Dakota Supreme Court Justice Burl Levine addressed women and the Constitution.
I think what most of them know that in 1787 the framers had in mind an all-male government. They didn't have in mind women as equal participants, and really it's only been since 1971 that the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution has been construed to include women as equal participants.
Tonight's speaker is Hendrick Smith. He is from the New York Times, based in Washington, D.C. What are you going to address looking at the Constitution, and would people be surprised if they were living now in the 80s?
They'd be astonished, the Founding Fathers. Television, political money, divided government, the importance of political parties, the whole thing is quite different. I'm going to talk about how power really works under the separation of powers.
What do you think about the situation right now in America?
Well, I think we've got a tough time in our government. All the stalemates, the mess that bother people is more embedded in our system and even in the activities of the voters than people realize. They tend to blame individual politicians, but we need to take a look at our system and see how it actually operates.
And you have some zingers to give the crowd tonight?
There are some zingers in the talk, yes.
All right. Well, we'll stop there and we'll tease them to come at 7:30 tonight. Concordia Centrum is where Mr. Smith will be speaking. You're all invited. Kathy Coyle reporting live.
Thanks, Kathy. Stock prices fell today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down more than 46 points. An average share of common stock on the American Exchange was off 8 cents, and Standard & Poor's 500 stock index fell more than 5 points. So a little gymnastic action off the top here.
Yeah, we're going to start with a variety here. We don't normally start with gymnastics. That's right. It is a sport, I guess, which requires a lot of hard work and usually gets very little attention. Well, today, Fargo South coach Charlie Fleck and his Bruin girls got some much-deserved recognition as they were honored for winning their 4th national championship in the last decade. The Bruins were honored during a ceremony at the South Gym this afternoon after learning their team scoring average last year set a national mark. South had to submit scores from 3 events, including a state meet and an invitational with at least 5 teams, and when compared on a nationwide level, they came out #1.
About 5-6 years ago, when it first started, there was like 250. I would imagine it's anywhere from 500 to 700 schools now across the nation.
So that's no small accomplishment, is it, getting that national championship?
No, not really. When you think of our score as high as it was, and it's the highest score ever been totaled, 112.01, and the All-American average is only 93 to qualify your team, so it's quite an accomplishment.
Well, we work really hard in our practices, and we all take gymnastics really seriously, and so I don't know, I think we really deserve this honor.
Yeah, it makes you have a little bit more energy, and you know, your mental attitude isn't so bad anymore, and it's just like, hey, we did this and let's do it again.
Well, it was supposed to be the game of the 80s, and it was certainly supposed to be a low-scoring defensive battle, but last night's Bears-Giants game was neither. Chicago outscored the defending Super Bowl champs 34-19, which was surprising enough, but they outsacked them 8-0, and that's where the game was won. Chicago also came through with the big plays, that's for sure. Quarterback Mike Tomczak completing 20 of 34 for nearly 300 yards, a big chunk of it coming on this bomb to Willie Gault, who caught it at the 7 and stumbled into the end zone. Biggest play of the big plays, though, this 94-yard punt return by Dennis McKinnon, who took advantage of some sloppy Giant tackling to go the distance. And afterwards, an excited Mike Ditka just wanted to talk about his offensive line.
Fellas, you got to give our line a hell of a job. You got to give those coaches in there a hell of a job for designing what we did to protect them. Now, I don't know if they sacked him or not. No sacks. But I tell you what, they did a hell of a job, and the coaching staff designed what we wanted to do to try to protect. And they broke it down in nickel. They broke our blocking completely down in nickel. We had to go to what we call pocket protection.
Settle down, Mike. You got 15 games left. Well, the Bears' win leaves them in a first-place tie with the Vikings and the Bucs in the NFC Central. Tampa visits Chicago next Sunday, while Minnesota must head west to play the Rams, a team that will probably be snarling after that upset loss at Houston. One plus for the Vikes, though, Darren Nelson is expected to return to action. Nelson told WCCO's Mark Rosen his knee feels better, and he is convinced he can play.
Well, I hope so. Right now the knee's feeling pretty good, and I'm going to start practicing on Wednesday, so hopefully I'll be in the lineup next week.
Playing on a real grass field may add to your incentive to go out there, too, a little bit, huh?
Well, I don't think it'll bother me that much. You know, if we were playing on turf, I might be a little bit apprehensive, you know, because my knee was a turf injury, but now that we're playing on natural grass, I think I'll be a lot safer, at least for 1 week.
It was probably pretty easy to fall asleep last night at Comiskey Park. After all, only 1,500 fans showed up, and most of them brought TV sets to see how the Bears were doing. At any rate, the Twins sure played like they were in dreamland, getting just 5 hits and making a rare pair of errors as the White Sox whipped them 8-2, and it was hardly a performance befitting a first-place team. Afterwards, the Twins seemed eager to put it out of their minds.
You know, what's nice now is maybe we can get some help from somebody else, you know, like we have all year. We've got to forget about that game. And we take that game out on the field with us tomorrow, we'll get beat 20-0.
It was a tough one. I made a couple of bad pitches in certain situations. We didn't hit the ball. It was all everything together tonight. You know, it's just one of those games that you come back tomorrow Wednesday, just rebound and you know, just do the best job you can.
Twins had better wake up soon, however. Kansas City is close to within 3.5 now, and the Royals have won 6 of 7. Tom Kelly will give the ball to Joe Niekro tonight, who hasn't had a start in quite a while. Chicago plans to go with rookie Jack McDowell. Just one game this afternoon in the majors. Cincinnati was in Atlanta to play the Braves, and you know, the Reds are really running out of time if they plan to get the first-place Giants. They started the day 7 games back, and a couple of real veterans have pounded home runs in this one. Here's a familiar figure, Dale Murphy. He's having a great year. He hits number 39 off Ron Robinson. However, the Reds would get a couple back in the 4th inning. Big Dave Parker plunks number 23 with a man on, make it 4-1, and the Reds are running away with this one. 16-2 is the update in the 5th inning. Also in tennis today, Red River was a winner over North. The final in that one was 4-1.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Have more at 10. It's not every birthday you get greetings from the president. It's not every birthday you turn 100 either. The card and the birthday came to Iris Andreessen today. Iris lives in Richwood near Detroit Lakes. She says the secret to longevity is to eat well, work hard, and have a little fun along the way. A Jamestown man thinks dogs that can help the disabled should be available in the Midwest, and he's trying to set up a training facility for the animals. We'll learn more about that project on KX4 News at 10.
Should be interesting. Thanks for joining us.
See you later.
Good night.
I don't know.
Mom,
Huh?
they working hard.
Well, I've worked all my life, yes.
By and shown support for you?
Huh?
Have they come by and shown support for you?
Oh, some of them have, but not very many yet. Just Pearl and Dwayne Lidstrom. And,
This isn't our home. Okay. Here's another celebrant.
Come over here and help me, Helen.